The Filthy Truth number 4.
Yeah.
This is our 4th podcast, and we're excited to talk today about changing society.
Changing society, yeah.
And the expansion of freedom within that.
Sounds good.
And I think we were just kind of talking a little bit about about atheism and religion. And have you ever heard of the God-given rights?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, birth and since we don't believe in God, I like to think of it as birthrights or natural rights.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then in this country, you're in Vietnam right now, but right, still from our last podcast, but in this country, in the U.S., I feel like we're really strong on promoting people's natural rights and allowing people to have their birthrights and maintain them as best as we can within our society. So things like freedom of speech, pursuit of happiness, freedom of religion, stuff like that. The right to defend yourself, to protect yourself, which in this country is the right to bear arms and things like that. Which are it's to me, it's really basic. It's like you're born with certain abilities, like the ability to speak. So that should be protected, basically at all costs. That's just something that the human body does. We speak. So to put restrictions on that is, I don't know. It just seems immoral. One way I like to think of it is like a dog. Some people cut the tails off of a dog, but a dog is made to have a tail that wags. So to cut it off, you're cutting off one of its birthrights, which is its ability to wag its tail. I don't know.
Do you feel like that our rights have been, we should have more rights than we have now, or can you give examples of where you feel like
well,
their rights are kind of...
There's a smoking ban, which is pretty widespread across the country now.
Okay.
So where you can't smoke in public places, and they restrict where you can smoke a cigarette or whatever. But that's you're restricting freedoms, and that it seems like there's a good reason to restrict it, but you're restricting individual people's freedom, and then people still have the freedom to disassociate with places where they allow smoking. So that's why I'm on the side of not having a smoking ban.
Yeah. That's a tough one, because I kind of see your point. I mean, and in Washington, of course, if you smoke cigarettes or whatever, I mean, you can always go to Snoqualmie. You have to go to an Indian reservation or something, and and then you could smoke there, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it gets a little bit weird, because you have workers that work, and then they're around the smoke, and then they get lung cancer or whatever, and you can always say, oh, don't work there, but it's I don't know what to say other than societies kind of change over time, and we start to think this isn't okay, but this is, So I do see your point, but I guess I just think I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't know what to say. I don't know how we could change that. I don't think we'll never get back to where it was before. You can just smoke anywhere, But I'm going to let you continue. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Well, no, you're not interrupting. You start taking away people's rights, people's right to choose where they work. If there's a bar over here that smokes, and there's a bar over here where people don't smoke, you can choose to work at one place or the other, because the people that are working at those places, they have the knowledge that, oh, if I work at this place, I'm going to be breathing in smoke all day, and it's bad for you. We know that. We know that now.
But so now, I mean, if you think about as far as rights go, I mean, what's basically happened is, if you go to a bar, there's a couple things that can happen. One is that the smokers will simply hang out outside the bar, and they'll smoke outside, and then they'll come in. So I mean, it is a little bit of inconvenience, but I don't see that as a huge thing. Like I
But
hear you, and
they're forced to do
they're
it.
forced to. Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't
I
it be
agree.
better if we had a
So
society where smokers said, "Oh, we don't want to bother people non-smokers, so we're going to choose to go outside." They're forced to go outside.
yeah, they're forced. That's true. They're forced to go outside. But I guess you could say it's for the greater good, right? It's the idea that people don't want smoke. There's enough people that say I don't want it, and I don't want to be around it. And I think actually, who started that was Ireland, because people used to smoke in Ireland, and they were the first to say we're banning smoking in in our bar or something. And here's the thing too, you have to think about it in an economic way, right? If I'm going to be coming from this approach, I could say, well, I'm paying for the insurance, I'm paying for my employees, and then my employees, if they're smokers, I have to pay more money. I don't want to pay all the money. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I want to pay extra money, so, and then the other thing is that, like, now here's the other problem too. People start smoking, it drives all the non-smokers away. So it's kind of weird. It's like it sort of has the opposite effect, right? If you opened it up, it would attract business people who smoke. Everyone would then go there to smoke. So I guess, I don't have a problem with it. If people want to smoke and they want to smoke in our, like they want to have an establishment where they have smoking, I can see your point. So I don't want to go off too much on it, because I totally understand where you're coming from.
I think that's how it should be. To me, that's an easy solution. Is like, hey, if you want to have a place where you allow smoking or where you don't allow smoking, it's your place. You can set the rules. But to take that choice away from people, I think is the problem. And I personally don't care. Like, I hate smoke. I don't want to be around smokers.
Right.
Like, it's good for me. Like, I'd rather be at a bar where there's no smoking myself personally. But that's a choice that I'm no longer allowed to make. I'm no longer allowed to patronize non-smoking bars because they're all non-smoking by force.
Sure.
Think about like abortion. It's a choice, and it's better to let people have the choice to have an abortion if they want, than to take that ability away from them, to take the ability of making the choice, their own choices.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, otherwise they could get it from somewhere else, and it's, they could end up getting hurt, so.
And that's also all we do in this life is we're alive, we're living a life, and we're here to make choices. That's how we learn and grow as individuals, but also as a community and as groups.
Yeah. I agree.
And so when you control that with these laws, it's like, oh, we're going to ban plastic bags. We're going to ban smoking. We're going to ban assisted suicide. Things like that. Then you're taking choice away from people.
I agree with all those things you're saying. I do want to point out, though, that we have rules and laws for a reason, and we have there's a structure, there's a culture there, and it's kind of like it's just the way it goes. Like, it's when everyone thinks, oh, this is the way, this is something that we don't like, then they will have people not do something. Then they're going to ban this or that, or like maybe with the plastic, I'm not sure the reason behind it, but
control.
Maybe it was because of trash, like it was leaving too much trash around, and some people said, I'm tired of the trash, and they thought the alternative of it, that the paper bags, they thought that was a better thing for the environment. So again, you're weighing things out, and you're saying, well, I think this choice is better than this, and there's enough people, it's a majority rule thing, and people say, yeah, I'm for that. And so the thing is, here's where you're going to get caught in a trap. If you're for democracy, the way democracy works is people vote, and they all agree upon something, and then of course the majority is only like 50%, like slightly over 50 makes majority, right? Which I don't like that idea, but that's it. That's all they need. They need a little bit of majority, and then suddenly they say you can't do that anymore. It's like, well, same thing with helmets, right? There was people that were they get in an accident and wouldn't wear a helmet,
Yeah.
and they get so they just said, hey, same thing with insurance. You got to have insurance when you drive or whatever. So you can look at that in different ways. And some of it is just that our society puts these restrictions, these rules, not just for safety, but it also is kind of like we're making choices about what we priorities of what we think is important and what we think is not important. And you can say, well, I don't agree with that. Or here's the thing, you might think that you might side on the thing of everyone should have freedom to do whatever they want. And the thing is, what you have to understand is that when someone has freedom to do what they want, they may do things that you don't want, right? So you're giving examples where you're okay with it, but there might be some things that people want to do that you are going to be against. And so that's why I think it's very important to have.
There already are.
I think, and I agree, but I'm just saying, I think it's important to have a sort of a structure there, where there is kind of a back and forth. And but believe me, I side more with you. Like I like the idea of more freedom, not less. So I don't know if I'm explaining that really well. I'm not against what you're saying, but I think it can be a little more complicated than that.
I just see it as an erosion of our freedom to make our own choices.
Yeah.
And I think it lessens it lessens the ability for a community to sort of evolve on its own, like without laws and forcing people to go a certain way.
Yeah.
Just let it happen more naturally. And it's not perfect. I wrote down this quote. Nobody said freedom was perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a bar where you can smoke, you have a bar where you can't smoke. So you have choice. Now you have freedom of choice. But if you take one away, now you've taken away the person's ability to choose. You've taken away their natural right of choice.
So what about your feelings on like businesses? Like, should anyone be able to do whatever they want with their business? Like, I have a business and I run my thing, and I'm trying to make profits, so I just do whatever. Anything goes. Like, is it where do you want no restrictions at all? I can do whatever. Am I free to do whatever I want?
Like,
no, I'm telling you that, like, okay, so like for instance, like roads, like I'm gonna, I get together, we decide we're gonna build a road, and I want the road to go a certain way, but I'm not gonna put any traffic lights. I'm not gonna care about public safety, so I'm just gonna do whatever I want. It's my freedom, do what I want, right? I'm gonna have a company, but I'm gonna pollute in the waters, and then you're going to get sick, and then your family dies, right? Your mom dies, your dad dies. Not my fucking fault. My business, my choice, my freedom, right? So that's why the thing is about freedom is I think what's really important is to understand we have a culture, we have society, and within that containment of society, we have freedoms. So a good way of looking at this is think about when you were born, when you were a baby. Did you have full freedom to do whatever you want? No, like your mom did everything for you, like your dad, like they fed you, they clothed you. And then even as you got older, what happened, right? You tried to run with a knife and they stopped you. They said, hey, you can't do that. That's safety, right? Can't do that. So they put restrictions on you. And then as you get older, you got into high school, you got into, junior high or whatever. And then you realized, oh, there's some social etiquettes, and there's certain things I can't do. I can't run around and just, punch someone in the face. And so you learn through society, what it is that's acceptable and not acceptable. And the thing is, it changes over time. And some of the changes we don't like in the example, like
okay,
we're talking.
Wait,
go ahead.
Wait, can I stop you there? You made some really good arguments.
Thanks, bro.
You made some really good arguments there. But now, say that the government forced parents to raise their children in that way.
In which way?
By making these rules and
well, yeah, of course that would be yeah. So what happens is, I mean, there's been times when the government has been too obtrusive, right? And so when the government does that, there's pushback. So there's a natural
Yeah.
pushback, right? So if government tries to be, or a business, tries to do something, and enough people get upset about it, they kind of push back against it. But one thing to think about is that there's, I think survival is something that's always inherent in everyone, in every culture. And so, and also, I kind of believe this, that like the idea of selfishness is inherent in everyone, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a reality, So we always have to do things to kind of keep those things in check, Yeah. Otherwise, what happens is someone just rules over somebody else. So it's funny to me when we talk about government, because yes, government can do a lot of really bad things, but there's a lot of good things that government has done, and we should be, think of government in that way. So, for instance, like we talk about free marketplace, people act like the marketplace is just naturally free, like the stock market, right? But the reason why rules have come into place for the stock market is because people tried to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
They would, for instance, like they would sell out their stock. They would say one thing, the CEO would come out and be like, this is my stock is doing great. They would just lie, and then they would sell off their stock. They'd make it go up, and then they'd sell out, right? And then you'd be holding the bag. And it's, if you take the idea of freedom and say, they do whatever they want, I don't like that idea. Like you need someone in there to implement some rules so that things are fair, that there's a fair thing. And what's weird? When you make it fair, when you regulate things a little bit, what ends up happening is people feel, once they have that safety that there's not going to be a problem, then you actually have more freedom. Like now I feel encouraged to go buy stock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But imagine if it was really corrupt. Imagine if people could do whatever they want, then you'd be like, I don't want to invest, right? Because you wouldn't know what. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but in that example, the market then would crash on its own.
Not necessarily.
It wouldn't work. It has to be.
What I'm talking about is actually has happened. Like look at the last crash that we had. It was at during the was after the .com or whatever. I mean, there was people that lost their homes and their jobs, and there was a lot of like really crazy stuff. And then there was some laws that were supposed to come into play, which I don't think they were that good. But all I'm saying is usually what happens is people try to take advantage, and then they have to come up with a law to sort of fix those things that were messed up. And I feel like it's wrong to think that humans are just naturally going to do the right thing, and they're always going to be, like you and me. You know what I mean? People are always going to try to take advantage of other people.
No, I agree. I agree with you. And that's why I was saying, like, freedom isn't perfect.
Well, not only is it not perfect, but it's important to have a society. It's important to have government, to have some structure. But when you talk about these examples, for instance, like the one dear to me, I feel strongly about is the right to die. What is that called? Euthanasia or whatever?
Assisted suicide?
Assisted suicide, yeah. I mean, I am really for that. Like,
oh, you are.
Like, I don't know about you, but like if I've got some problems, I don't want to be hooked up to a machine. Like, hell no. No, I not only do I don't want no pain, no suffering. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of pain, right?
But but man, I don't know where I stand on assisted suicide.
I know, I hear you, bro.
I mean, it doesn't sound good to me. I guess I'm for the right. Like, you should have the right to do whatever you want with your body. And if you want someone to inject you with poison, then that's your right. But man, I wouldn't encourage it.
I know that's a tough one.
I wouldn't encourage anybody to kill themselves. Like, I can't imagine being in such a bad place that you'd think it was the right thing to do.
Well, it's not that hard to understand. I mean, give an example like cancer. If it's someone who is going through late stage cancer, I think there's nothing. When we would do that to our pets, I mean, like, when your pet is suffering, the veterinarian will ask you, do you want to put your cat asleep? And the answer is yes. Right? It's I don't want them to suffer. I don't want my friends to suffer. I don't want to suffer. But now if you choose to suffer, go for it. Like if you think pain is fun, then I would say, that's see how that freedom comes is like, oh, you want to suffer, then you can do that. That's a natural process.
Okay, well, isn't allowing smoking in a bar, isn't that a slow suicide?
Yeah, but I remember that I didn't disagree with you 100%. Like I said, I feel like it's wrong to put me as on the side of like I'm against what you're saying, because I'm not fully against it. No, I'm just saying, I just want to clarify, like I agree with you. I just am trying to say that there's kind of a reason behind it, but that doesn't mean that I'm not 100% agreeing with you. I kind of see your point, so I concede to that. You know what I mean? Let's talk about vaccines, for instance, because that's been, on my mind.
Yeah.
I know eventually we're like, that's like one of those topics I'm like, I really didn't want to talk about, because I know you and I maybe probably think a little differently, but might as well, right? It's like, it's time, right, to pull that thing out, right?
Sure.
So, I want to hear your take. What do you feel about? Because
well,
like we had the vaccine, like these mandates and stuff. Are you against that?
Vaccine mandates, it's wrong to force people to do medical procedures. It's wrong to force people to not get abortions if they want an abortion. Mm-hmm. It's wrong to force people to get abortions if they want an abortion.
Yeah.
So that's a medical procedure. It's
yeah. I hear you.
It's wrong. It's wrong to force that. It should be between a person and their doctor.
Yeah.
It's freedom of choice.
So, I mean, in some cases you have the thing where they're doing like, do you still see it as a mandate if they're allowing you to have testing instead of the vaccine?
Well, if it's a forced test, then it's a forced test. It's
still being forced to do something that you don't want to do. So what about this thing about the health and safety of others? Like, do you think that like, if you have the vaccine, that it sort of helps? I mean, because like we look back in the past, for instance, like the Spanish flu, and people had the vaccine then, and everyone kind of went along with it, but somehow now it doesn't make sense to do that. But even then, I guess there were people that probably decided they didn't want the vaccine and probably just didn't get it. I do have to say this though, that there are, like, if you can show exemptions, like, for religious reasons or whatever, I think you don't have to have the vaccine.
Why religion? Why should religion be an exemption? Why would you allow
I don't know. That's what they have. I'm just talking about what's currently in place. Like they do have some exemptions from it, but for the most part, I guess they see it as a public safety. So, man, this is tough, because honestly, I don't know where to stand. I mean, part of me feels like, I feel like the virus is spreading, and that vaccines do, they kind of help, stop the spread in a sense. So I think
how? Well, I mean,
okay,
that's a whole other topic.
So that's a whole other
does
topic.
this
Yeah.
vaccine
But
even work?
what I'm saying is this: is that should we? I guess the question is, should we do something because it helps the greater good? Like let's just say it did. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to be able to come from the point of I know something or not. But just a one point of view of like, that people who get the vaccine, they do it because, not just because they want to protect themselves, but because they want to protect other people, and then also that they want to make it so the hospitals are inundated with people. So I think that those all are valid points, but I also think your point that you're making, that you're kind of like you're forcing somebody to do something. I mean, yeah, that's true too. Like I kind of feel like you can have two things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And they both can be true.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's no, like, I don't know the answer. Honestly, I want to say, oh, well, I feel strongly you should do this. But it's hard, because I kind of feel torn in a way. Like you know what I mean?
Well, one problem here, I think, is that this vaccine that we're talking about now, I mean, it doesn't necessarily do the things that we think of a vaccine doing. Like, it doesn't necessarily protect anybody. It doesn't even necessarily protect the person who's taking it. It depends on what vaccine. Some of these vaccines are coming out as being bad for you, but let's assume that if somebody takes a vaccine, it completely prevents them from ever catching it, and it prevents them from spreading it, and it will end like a pandemic. That if that was the case, I think there wouldn't be a hesitancy, especially if it was safe. If it was studied and there was some long-term data that people could look at. I don't think there would be a hesitancy, because most people are vaccinated against a whole bunch of things.
I think now, most people are vaccinated.
No, I mean, most people are vaccinated against, like measles or
those
whatever
things,
it is,
but not
chickenpox, things like that.
Yeah. But I also think too, I mean, part of that's because the coronavirus was politicized. And I don't think it should be a political issue.
No.
It's funny when if you change the framework of something, it changes how you think about it. For instance, if we were to if Donald Trump back in the day, when he, when during the coronavirus, if he would have said, now think about this, you tell me if I'm correct about this. If he would have said, this thing that came from China, right? Which I think, it started in China, so we could say it's, because he would say that a lot. And he'd say it's a foreign like illness that's attacking us. It's like a terrorist attack on all humans. Like you know what I mean? It causes you to die, it gets sick, right? And it's spread along. And you know what? It's our patriotic duty to protect others, right? It's our patriotic duty it's an American thing to make sure that we are safe. And the thing is that you expect the doctors and the nurses to take care of you when you get sick, but and people die for our country, but you can't wear a mask or you can't get a freaking shot. You know what I mean? And it's like, if he would have framed it in that way, he'd be president now. Like that's, I don't think so. I do. I think the only thing that if you looked at the polls, like he almost, he basically like almost won, like it wasn't that, he wasn't like Biden like got way more votes than him. It was like a little bit more. So it was just basically the coronavirus kind of made the difference. I think that's all it was, And I know a lot of people think, it's, it's the stuff about immigration and they called him a racist and all this stuff. But really though, like what people really care about is, make sure that their wages are good. Like if they have a job and there's no like big thing that happens. And under him, it was the coronavirus. That's not his fault, right? It's not Donald Trump's fault for that happening. But his response to it was a little bit different than Biden's. I'm not saying Biden is necessarily doing a great job, but I'm just giving that as an example that like framework is everything. Like how you frame it changes the way you think about it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but what's your take on what I'm saying, I guess?
It's, well, I mean,
you still
it's
see it
silly to even talk. It's I don't know. It doesn't. This vaccine. It doesn't. I mean, what vaccine are we even talking about here? Like, it doesn't.
Well, all that I was trying to say though,
it doesn't even last. Like, you have to get a booster now.
No, but you're not answering my question though. So all I was trying to say was that if they would have changed the idea behind a vaccine, if they would have made it political, if they would have just simply said it's an American thing to do, that we're trying to get rid of a foreign enemy, people would be on board. If he would have said that, your response to me would have been different, I think, because it's a, what's weird? It's a kind of a group think. Like when you get enough people kind of agreeing with an idea, it catches, and then other people agree with it, whether it's true or not, right? It doesn't matter whether it's actually factual. It just is like if you get enough people that kind of like you encourage that idea. So framework is everything. Like how you frame it changes everything. I'll give you another example. Like when Obamacare came out, right? Is like if you really wanted to make a better, like basically push to more towards kind of socialized medicine, right? Is all you had to do was just call it insurance reform, right? It's framework. It's like how you frame the argument. Like changing the name of it would make people go on board because that's what it is. It's insurance. It's insurance reform. Because what was happening? They had insurance, but then they would kick people off. They'd say, "Oh, you had a pre-existing condition. We're not going to cover you," right? So that's what would happen. They'd look back in your past. Oh, you were a smoker. There we go again about the smoking thing, right? So you smoked. So now, oh, when you were 16, you had a cigarette. Oh, we're not going to give you insurance, right? That's what they were doing. And so if they just would have simply said, "Oh, don't complicate things. It's just insurance reform," which is literally what it is, it would have done much better. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know. I mean, you could still say I don't agree with the idea of the vaccinations. I hear your point there.
No, I don't have. That's not my point. I think
I'm sorry.
vaccinations are a great thing, and I think that most people want vaccines.
Okay.
I have a lot of vaccines. I've taken a lot of vaccines, but
Yeah.
this is something different. This is something new. It's not. They were just talking about now this Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Supposedly, the CDC is saying it's not safe. It's not safe
Yeah.
enough to take anymore. And these were never approved. These have never been approved by the FDA. So it could be framed politically in a different way, maybe that would get more people to take it or less people to take it. But I'm with you on that. It shouldn't be political. It should be about science and medicine and the information and facts about that. But it became very political. And then if you look at the science and the facts and how it changes over time, I think that's why people are hesitant to take it. And you're seeing it now with, I think a lot of people are not going to be getting this booster.
Listen, let me just say, I agree with you. Like, I totally understand why some people don't want to get the vaccine or they don't want to get the booster, or they don't want to wear a mask. I think there's reasons for it. There's lots of reasons. And it's almost like beyond the scope of this podcast. There's just too much to cover. You know what I mean?
That's a separate.
And I don't even feel like I'm qualified to cover it, So, but it's, I mean, I think you make all really good points, but back to the thing, what we were talking about is this thing of freedom. I mean, the vaccine is kind of a bad example because, I do think that there's something called like a viral load. So I think that, like, for instance, if you get sick, and you're coughing, right, and you've got the full, the coronavirus, it's fully in you, and you have it, you're positive for it, and you're going to really be spreading it. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have a vaccine and you end up getting like these sort of minor, you have it, but I think that they've shown that there is a difference. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the things where I think the science is showing that, like, you have the vaccine, that's the reason why you would be less likely to spread it, is because wouldn't have those symptoms as much. But the one thing is this is all like new science. This is all like new.
Right.
It's a brand new like virus. So, like, we don't know, like, really if anything is doing.
Right.
I mean, we kind of know. I want to say
brand
that we
new.
don't know.
It's brand new. That's what I think. I think it's brand new. So it's not time to start injecting ourselves with untested, unproven drugs. I think it's time to sit down and really figure out what the real solutions are. And I think it's not injecting.
So what is the solution? Let's go with that.
I mean, the most basic solution would be like you cut off people flying into the country.
Okay.
Or people coming into the country.
I agree.
Because then the virus is coming in that way, right? So that would stop it. And then also, the idea of like people staying 6 feet apart is kind of maybe a good idea, but it's better to just say, look, we should not have contact with other people, because that would stop the spread. I mean, that would literally stop the spread. The idea of masks, like a cloth mask on your face, we know virus comes in and out of that. So that seems like that could potentially spread it more, because it creates a false sense of security. Same with the vaccines, because people get vaccinated and they feel like they can't spread it anymore. But apparently, and we didn't know this
Right.
at the time, but apparently now it's well known that people can spread it if they're vaccinated. So
Right. That's true. Yeah.
it seems like people want that pill, they want that injection, they want something to make it stop, and maybe that's not what's going to stop it right now.
Yeah. No, I hear you. One solution that I thought about, which I don't think it's a 100% solution, but I think it would help a lot, is to make like the testing way better. Like it's improve the way the testing is done. And this gets into an area where you're probably going to disagree with me, but if you basically set it up to where you got to get tested, and once you're tested and you're negative, then go do your shit, go do your thing, but you got to get tested. The thing is, people don't want to stick shit up their nose. It's kind of annoying, and I've had it done once and I didn't like it. So, but it's but I think eventually they're going to get to tests where, like, what I would love is to have a test where it can detect it not just in your body but near you. Like if it's on you, like it basically you could walk through it and then it would immediately tell you that you have it. You know what I mean?
You'd have to get tested like every day though, pretty much, and even then it's still
I know. I realize that it would be it'd be difficult. I'm not saying it's 100% foolproof, but I think it would help. Like for instance, these parties that people are going to, Christmas parties. It's real simple. Have everyone get tested the day before. It's not guaranteed, but they get tested, then they show they're negative, and then you guys can all hang out and do your thing. I think that's totally fair. I mean, let me just ask you this: how would you feel if you had a Christmas party that you were running, and 6 people died, or 4 people got it? Just because you don't die doesn't mean it's over. You get it, you're gonna be in pain for a while. It might be really hard the rest of your life, until they come up with a better treatment. But I think as time goes on, the technology will get better. The other thing that could happen too is we might get to the point where you get the coronavirus, but like they can treat it a lot better. So when you get to, the first, like not the hospital, but like you see your doctor, they'll give you something and it's going to mitigate those symptoms. So then we move it from like dying from it to just like being like a regular flu. That may be the only solution that with this, I feel like.
Recording.
It's recording, yeah. So in this episode, we had to do a second day just to finish the ending, right? Oh, we got your hand in the way. Hey, get your hand out of the way.
I'm messing with my settings. Oh shit! Now I lost you.
Oh, you're out now. Come on.
I'm messing with the
Hey, Baggins, can
settings.
you get it together there?
Share content. Only the host can share in this meeting. Okay.
Oh, we can. I think I can change that somehow. I don't know how.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
What you got?
So we had to do a part 2. I mean, not part 2, but like we didn't get to do a closing of this episode, so we got to do it now. So I'm just gonna do a quick closing statement, and then I'll get your take, see what you think. So we're basically, you're talking about different sources, that, I get my sources, you get your sources. And I think the reality is that everyone has their different worldviews. And, I don't think that's the major issue, because, it's like, that's just the way it is, right? I mean, and, but basically, I don't want to convince people, that this is the right way of doing it, that this is like my way is the right way necessarily. But basically we want to like figure out like what's the solution, like what can we do together to try to solve this issue. And I'm not saying I'll know the answer, but that's what I'm striving here for, is to do that. And then lastly, I just want to point out, I feel honored to have you on, and any subscriber that's listening to us. I mean, I feel, super good about that. So, like and subscribe and all that stuff. And hey, man, we're doing what we can, right? So we got to do what we got to do. So, but last thing I wanted to ask you about, which is about how we solve this. So as I see it, we have the first example, which is to basically do nothing, roll the dice, um, ignore the science. We could look towards alternative medicine, maybe some prayers or something, or some other means, all right? Some other thing that we got to do, right? Or we can maintain the status quo. And I think maintaining the status quo, also not so great either, right? There's so many things that I'm upset with that I don't feel is right. And so I think the best solution maybe is kind of like a holistic approach where we're going to have to look at, all these different aspects, both the medical part of it, both the fact that people are, they're out of work, that are jobs, having people locked up, or they're, where they, you mentioned the vaccine mandates. It's infringing on people's rights. I agree with that. And also, it's like there's a thing on our economy too, right? So it's like it's hurt jobs. It's the healthcare is an issue. I mean, there's so many things, and it's how do we get all those things like worked out? I don't know. So I'm gonna end on that, man. I'm gonna give you the floor, and go for it, bro.
Well, honestly, I think we should do a separate episode about. It sounds like you still really want to talk about the vaccine, and I'm cool with that. I mean, we talk about anything
Yeah, we're
on
down
this
with it.
podcast.
We do it for the people, right? It's all about giving what people want.
Yeah.
That sounds like a commercial. It's like
So I mean, there's a lot. Like, I mean, I was just watching. I watched Biden's speech today about his new plan for handing some sort of like upping the number of tests or something for the virus. But I really think it's a separate topic. We're talking about freedom and this, and so it definitely overlaps. I mean, it's definitely a topic about freedom.
Yeah.
And
maybe
I
it's
think
beyond our scope. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's beyond our scope.
Yeah. Okay. Like sometimes I feel like, I'm not really qualified, to talk about science,
Oh, well, that's true. We're definitely not qualified to talk about science.
Right.
But we're definitely qualified to talk about whatever the hell we want. So
Exactly.
yeah.
I want to introduce something, and this is going to be cool because this is going to be one of the up and coming episodes. So I'm telling you guys, don't miss it. You know what I mean? This is going to be fun. All right. So we're going to dive into like what actually is truth, or at least for me, like how I think of it. And it's going to be good. I guarantee you it'll be mind expanding. You know what I mean? So, and I'm going to introduce this idea, which I've been playing around with. I don't think it's my idea, but it could be. I don't know. Who knows? But and basically it has to do with two types of thinking, which one is what I would call fast thinking and slow thinking. And it's not exactly how you think of it. It's not like, I'm thinking fast and I'm thinking slow. What it has to do with is that we've reached a point with our technology where everyone is getting information so fast that we just read headlines, we just read a tweet, and it's like we're quickly, figuring out what we believe in, and we're not really dissecting the information. But actually, it's an important thing to learn because you have to quickly assess the situation, right? And you have to quickly read through things. We can't sit there and read through everything that we have, you know what I mean? And that's a skill, but it also is a hindrance. There's something that's missing, which a much more difficult thing, which is what I call slow thinking, which is that you are actually reading the text and you're thinking about what you're reading and you're analyzing it and you're asking yourselves basically logically, you're using logical thinking and determining whether or not what this person is saying, whether it holds any water, whether it's logical. There's actually logical fallacies, like if the person hasn't given good enough evidence to prove what they're saying, or if they're just attacking a person without, that's just like what they call ad hominem, where they're just attacking someone and basically they don't have a point. They're just trying to just paint someone badly. The other one is like example is like where, you could be saying something that's true, that's factual, but then your conclusion is off, right? So like you said two things that were both factual, but one thing doesn't cause the other, So those are the kind of things. And then when you get beyond that, then there's even more of like the sources. Like, did you actually name the source of your article? Like, where did you get the information from? The thing about all that stuff is it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And I think for most people, they don't bother with it. But I think anytime that you start becoming just a little more skeptical, not just of like what you read, but even your own way of thinking, like if you just simply say, what I believe, is it really true? Like, do I really know for a fact this is the way it is, And what you find is everyone has usually an element of truth. Like everyone who believes in something, there's always an element of truth. And I think the key is not necessarily to point out where they're wrong, but to just at least understand where someone else is coming from. And then from there, you can do whatever, you can believe whatever you want, That's all I got to say. But that's coming up in another episode. We're going to dive deep into the ideas of truth. And I might be saying some total bullshit, but I don't care. I'm going to tell you how I feel. So we're going to do it. We're going to dive deep into Bilbo Baggins' brain and find out where he's coming from, right? That's the name he's going by right now. So, hey, man, it's going to be fun. You do not want to miss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. People should definitely subscribe if they want to hear us talk about things like that and the nuance of different arguments and different perspectives.
All right. So coming up later too in the next later podcast, we're probably going to do talking about your trip coming up and where you're going to be heading and what you got going on. So where are you going to be at? I mean, where are you heading to?
Well, I'm heading to the desert.
Okay.
I'll be in Arizona and Nevada and Mexico, all these places, just to get some sun. So it's a new adventure, and it's a good time to get out and adventure now. I feel like we're talking about the virus, and it's like, man, to me it feels like a really good time to just get out and explore nature and live outside a little bit, and be out. I'm out in the sun every day when the sun's out.
I hear you. So I got one last thing to ask you, and do you think whatever way that someone thinks, whether they're, let's say they're fully like everyone should be mandated, and have, like get the vaccine and all that stuff, right? Or they're just totally like, anti-vax, let's say. Do you think it's important to not just say those words, but like kind of live that? Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't know what you mean.
Like basically the actions that someone does, it like, for instance, I've seen the situation where someone is, they're talking about being anti-vax, but they actually got the vaccine. You know what I mean? So I always think to myself, like, whatever it is, I just think it's good to be authentic. I don't care which way you like, for instance, if you really feel strongly about being, I don't know, some cult member, like you're like, I'm a whatever religion, or, hey, if that's your thing, but then I think that's your lane, right? So then just, stay in your lane, right? Just don't pretend to be something that you're not. I always think that's authenticity, at least for me. That's what I think is an important trait, but maybe it doesn't matter, it's whatever.
There's also people who are maybe in this talking about this specific vaccine, like maybe they've been vaccinated, but they're against mandates. They're against forcing people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wasn't trying to say that. I wasn't trying to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess what I mean is, if you, like, for instance, if you say, the vaccines are bad and it will cause you to, I don't know, to die, or, you know, like
I don't know anybody
basically,
that says that.
or no one says that. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're saying, oh, the vaccine can give you the virus or something weird like that.
I don't know
But
anybody
then,
that says that either.
no, I think people do. But what I'm saying is, if you,
I
whatever
don't
you
think people
say,
do. I
no,
mean,
I can show you all kinds of crazy stuff
I'm
people
sure
have said.
you're right. I'm sure people do.
Microchips, all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't matter. It isn't about that they said something wacky. That's not the point. The point is that if they themselves got vaccinated, they're telling their viewers one thing, but at the same time, they're, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like it should all flow into one thing. In other words, like, don't get vaccinated, and then also tell your viewers that, like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't have it. I didn't get it.
I mean,
Unless you can say this, unless you can actually, if you're honest with your viewers and say, I got it, but I still think people should have the freedom not to get it. I'm down with that, as long as
okay,
you're honest. I'm
but
just
it
saying,
seems like
I appreciate honesty.
uh,
I go
honesty,
on the side
but
of honesty.
there is also a sort of sense of a privacy, maybe that because you're sort of it seems like you might be you're it seems like you're maybe a little bit okay with um it's private information, whatever somebody puts into their body, especially medically, or if somebody has an abortion, it's nobody else's business.
Right. True. Except for, this is where I totally agree with you. But here's where I feel that there's an exception. When you're a podcaster, when you're someone of influence, especially you have millions of followers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're going to say something, you should live the example that you're saying. It's wrong to steer people in a direction when you yourself aren't doing that. You know what I mean? It'd be like if I said, oh, you should all take my vitamins. I've got these special vitamins that are really good. But I never take those vitamins, right?
Yeah.
Now, just think of it in the reverse. If you tell people that they should take the vitamins and you took them, and let's say it didn't work out, or I don't know, like you got sick or something, at least if someone gets hurt, at least you can say, well, I took them, I mean, I'm sorry it didn't work out for you, but at least I took my own medicine that I thought. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what the fuck.
You're kind of talking about like morally, what's morally right or what's ethical. I read I didn't read the story, like we were talking about just reading headlines. I think I read a headline. I didn't read the story about something about like the Pfizer CEO or the president or something like that, hasn't taken the vaccine that they're offering. I don't know if that's true or not, but
that's always scary. Like when you read about that, it always is always freaky. But the other one so here I'll give you an example so you know what I'm talking about. So and this is true. This isn't, I'm not making this up. So like the Fox News, basically they actually, it's beyond a regular mandate. Like they required all their employees, including the people that are on like the Tucker Carlson, all that, they all required to have a vaccine, and I think even tested. So, okay, great. That's fine. That's what they did. But then they have people on there that are sort of like anti-vax. But no, you can't do that. You got the vaccine, right? So you can on one hand say that you're anti-vax, but see, to me, I guess actions speak louder than words. That's how I feel. So the point I'm trying to make is there's nothing wrong with.
Well, wait. It sounds like it sounds like you're saying somebody is claiming to be anti-vax, but they're being forced to take the vaccine or lose their job. So that's exactly the problem I have, right. Or one of the main problems I have with it is
sure, and I totally get you. Yeah, and you can still have that opinion. It doesn't invalidate it. But what I'm trying to say is that not the specific host, but for the station to have people that are, talking about being anti-vax when they've required everyone, they should at least do a disclaimer and say, oh, by the way, all our employees have been vaxxed, but we're going to continue telling the vaccines are not any good. I mean, I think most people don't realize that's the facts. You know what I mean? So, and let me just say, it could be the other way around. Like, I'll give you an example, like the guy from California, he was telling everybody, oh, well, you should all mask up, right? Everybody should wear a mask. And then they caught him somewhere and he was at a restaurant, right? And he wasn't wearing a mask. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. See, it doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right. I don't give a shit. It's authenticity. Be authentic. You have a message. Just follow through. Like you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. But maybe I'm just a little bit too, I think too highly of people. Like they should do this thing that I think that they should do. That's like my feeling, but that's kind of dumb because people do whatever they want, People all the time are not authentic. So why am I requiring that of other people? That doesn't make any sense, right? Even for myself, I look at that and go, I'm an idiot to think that.
Yeah, I think,
bro. Yeah,
I think people should be authentic. I don't know
good.
that
Thank
much
you.
about.
Finally, you agree with me.
I
got you to agree.
I don't know that much about like Fox News and if they're requiring people.
I hear you. That wasn't my. The
idea that it sounds like to me like you're saying that there's maybe a couple. Let's say there's one host on Fox News that is speaking out about how they are they're against this vaccine. They're saying this vaccine is something that may not be healthy, or they're skeptical about it. They don't know if it works, but yet they have been vaccinated with that same vaccine that they're talking against.
Yeah. So because here's the thing is if they're really afraid, like if they honestly feel like that the vaccine is a bad idea, then don't take it. Don't. No, fine, right? But
you're saying
don't tell people not to take it if you took it. See, that's what I'm saying. Like it's not authentic. It's not authentic.
Well, okay, but can I just finish this scenario?
Sorry. Yeah.
Maybe, but you're saying that Fox News, the company, is forcing by mandate that all their employees take this vaccine. So it's possible that there's a host that doesn't want to take the vaccine for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're being forced to take it. So they're forced to take it. So they've been forced to take the vaccine that they don't want for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so then they're speaking out. Their real thoughts are that they don't want to take the vaccine for whatever reason. They don't like it or whatever, but they have taken it. But they've taken it by force.
Right.
They haven't chosen to take it. They were forced to take it or lose their job, apparently.
Right. That's true. But I guess maybe my complaints isn't necessarily with the specific host, but it could just be with the actual news company itself. Because I guess what I'm trying to say is that if they
Fox News is fake news, and so is CNN. CNN's fake news. MSNBC's fake news. It's all fake, man.
Yeah. Well, I think what it boils down to is it's money. They're gonna say what they think their viewers want to hear. But I just think, I don't know, like it kind of rubs me the wrong way. You know what I mean? And so, but I can't say in my life I've always been authentic. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's been times, but you meet some girl and you're like, oh yeah, I've got a great job, or whatever. Well, sure. So we all kind of put it like our best foot. Sometimes we're at some place and we think of something and we say something that's kind of a little bit outlandish, or like we make ourselves better than what we are. So that's a little different, but we're talking about people's lives here, I mean, and so that's why I feel like, no, you should be responsible for the words you say. If you're encouraging someone to do something and you're saying something opposite of what you've done, that just rubs me the wrong way, But
I feel like
it can go both ways. You understand that, right? I'm not just saying it pro-vax or anti-vax. It doesn't either side,
I feel like you're assuming that these news channels are like educational, but they're entertainment.
Yeah, I know, I get you. Yeah,
so like CNN is not to be. I mean, I wouldn't trust anything on there. I wouldn't trust anything on MSNBC. I wouldn't trust anything on Fox or any of these channels. CBS, NBC, ABC. It's all entertainment. It's maybe based on truth, but it's definitely very
Yeah.
It's reinforcing people's fear, and they're doing it for
Right.
money, for the advertising dollars. And
Yeah.
so to say, it sounds like you're saying people on these news channels should be honest. And I agree,
Okay.
but
Okay.
they're not. It's entertainment. It's fake.
Yeah.
And it's full of lies. It's full of
Right, full of-
exaggerations. It's full of untruths.
Yeah. Yeah. I see your point. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. True enough.